This truly has to be one of the most gorgeous moments in any garden. I reckon lots of you would agree with me. You've got beautiful, still, warm days, warm soil, and a hint of the cooler weather to come, which means it is the perfect time to get so many things done. One thing I can be really guilty of in the garden is getting so focused on all those jobs I have to do that I fail to stop and really look at what's happening and assess it for the season ahead. These dahlias are a great example of that. Last year, I grew them all from random seedlings. I didn't know what colour they were going to be, and then when they went dormant in winter, I lifted them, I stored them diligently, but I didn't keep track of what they were. So when I put them back in the garden last spring, I couldn't really work out where what colour should go, or even some of the smaller varieties to put them in the right position in the bed. So this year I want to mark them before they go dormant. Now you can see here, there's two quite distinctly different yellows on this one plant. Now I'm not sure if it's one plant throwing different colours or a couple of different tubers that have ended up being planted together, but I'm going to mark them with some Christmas ribbon, and so when they die back and go dormant, I'll be able to keep track, inspect, and next year I can be even more diligent with my displays. Another really important job I do a lot of at this time of the year is saving seed. That means that I'm selecting the very best performing flowers and food plants out of the garden to ensure next season they're even better. This is a lettuce variety. It's a red leaf cos that was given to me from my big brother's garden, which is about 3,500 kilometres west of here. Now, it was already a great lettuce, which is why I asked for some seed. But the benefit of growing and saving it year after year here in my garden is it's just becoming even better. It is acclimatising to the conditions here. So now it's going from a really good plant to superfood. And lettuce is truly one of the simplest things you can save yourself at home. It is a lovely little daisy, you can see the flower there, and then once these fluffy little seed heads start to form, you can cut it. You can just cut entire bunches off like that and then put them in a saucer or a basket to dry, and over the next week or two you'll find a lot of that seed will actually release, and you can clean it and store it for sowing next year. This cornflower is probably the bluest in the garden this year, so I want to save some seed. And you can see that these little dry flower heads are absolutely packed. They're quite unique looking little seed. They've got tails almost, look like little paintbrushes. So I'm just going to take some of those heads off and then leave them to dry for a week or two, and then I can get the seed out, put it in a jar, keep it safe for sowing again next spring. You might remember when I set these carrots up to save some seed. It was a great variety and it held in the ground fantastically through winter. So you can see that it's got some nice bunches of seed which are essentially dry. So I reckon there's enough for me to save here. The technique is pretty simple. I'll hang the whole plant in the shed, carrot and all, and let it dry for a couple of weeks before I can clean and store the seed. In a regular sized garden, it's hard to ever let any space go to waste, and particularly as we dive into those cooler months, once it's cold here, growth stops, you can't establish new food. So I've already got most of this bed planted with brassicas, and where that carrot was sitting, that's valuable real estate, so straight away I'm going to follow up with another crop. To prepare the bed, I just fork it over, layer on some compost, and then fork again before soaking it really well. I always check my brassica seedlings for caterpillar eggs before I plant them. At this time of the year, I just use a really thin layer of mulch and then water again before the net goes on to protect them. Another really simple technique for making the most of space, particularly at this time of year, is to raise a lot of seedlings. That means as soon as a bit of space opens up in the garden, you've got mature plants ready to go in. Now, I do it with the obvious things, but I also do it with some unusual crops, things like root crops, turnips and beetroot. It's an untraditional method. It's not normal that you would do that, but it works really well. So what I do is sow the seed, and as they germinate, I thin to about 3 plants per cell. When there's a spot in the garden, that whole clump of 3 plants can go in the ground and you get even more bang for your buck. If you've only got space in your life for one job at the moment, I reckon it should be making compost. It is the fuel for every great garden. And you can do it almost anywhere. I've got a couple of systems. One where I just chuck kitchen scraps in all the time. It breaks down slowly. It's a bit like a worm farm. And then this, which is designed for bulk materials. I can put a cubic metre of manure or other things in here and they can break down. But right now I want to make a really good compost brew. And there's a couple of rules for doing that, no matter what your system. One is diversity. You want lots of different materials. You want leafy green things like this garden waste. You want brown things like leaves, and you can even add animal manures. That's why my chickens poo, that's going to go in too. It adds a lot of nitrogen. The other thing you need to do is you need to chop things up small. It gives all of those organisms a chance to actually break that material down. It's like, you know, chewing them first for them. And I've done that with secateurs, I've bashed things with hammers, I've chopped things with knives. But recently I've decided that I want to upscale my compost game. You can hire petrol mulchers, but I really wanted an electric one. And after a long search, I found this one second-hand. You can see that that material is absolutely pulverised and mixed up. I've been putting both dry and green through it. So it's a great basis for the compost. I'm going to sprinkle on a bit of that chook manure, chuck in some leaves, and then I'll give it all a bit of a stir. The magic ingredient for compost is water. By keeping that moist, it'll really activate all of those microorganisms that do the work. And that thermometer, within a couple of days, will be up at 60 degrees, which is what I want. In a couple of weeks, when it cools down, I'll turn it again, maybe add some more water, and off it goes. And in a few months, I'll have really high quality compost to put out on the garden. Any time in the garden really is so amazing, but this time of the year is so deeply satisfying. So make sure this weekend you take a moment to look at how far you've come, taste a little of this delicious season, and of course, get some work done.